Want to sharpen your game? Join the DFM Coaching Patreon for exclusive technique breakdowns and mindset training. Now, let's get started.
Welcome to Tapped In. My name is David Figueroa-Martinez of DFM Coaching, and today we're going to be discussing the novelty trap. Jiu-Jitsu has this weird thing of always wanting to learn something new, always wanting to try this new move, this new technique, this new fresh take on something. And it kind of gets in the way of us understanding Jiu-Jitsu as a whole. There's this psychology that I have picked up on or noticed where you will see students they get to class, they're excited to be to class, and then they learn, we're going to be doing butterfly guard. I already know that. There's a difference between knowing it, being familiar, and actually knowing it. We have this tendency to want to get to class and learn something new so we could have these new aha moments as if we have an arms race that we have to keep up with. And we have to know more techniques than the next person. And those techniques have to be fresher than the person after that. And we're constantly bombarded with techniques online. And the slicker, the fancier the technique, the more it catches our eyeballs, and we are drowning in highlight reels. Here's the thing. When you look at wrestling, for example, which is a grappling art, and I understand you take away the submissions and sweeps, it's a different art. But when you look at wrestling practice, they're not doing a whole lot of different shit every week. They're doing what works, and they're almost distilling it down to a specific core set of moves. And you need to get really good at those core set of moves if you're going to be good at the art. Jiu-Jitsu, on the other hand, whether it's because of the surfer vibe, the really relaxed vibe, whatever it might be, we just have this tendency of looking at things from what's new? What's next? Oh, I've seen that. I want to do this. Almost like how we are with Netflix and streaming and everything. Like, we have such a short attention span on things that we look at these things and we're like, oh, we already know that shit. I was taught this 6 months ago. I was a white belt when I learned this. And it doesn't help your growth if you're constantly looking for what that next thing is. If you're constantly looking for that new sweep, that new guard, that new submission, hoping to catch people with it. And I understand Jiu-Jitsu has this giant sandbox feel. And there's no hard set rules on where it can go. When we think there's an ending, it's almost like the universe where how it just continues to expand. We think we found the end and this is what works now. And then someone comes up with some weird, funky guard or some leg entanglement that we hadn't seen or some new back take, berimbolo, whatever. And then we start falling in love with that. And the sport gets a little bigger every time. A little bigger and a little bigger. And it's great. I love the creativity of Jiu-Jitsu. I really do. I love that every body type has the kind of games that it can play. If you're higher calorie athlete, pressure, passing, get to a dominant position, smash. If you're on the smaller end, quick, you're probably going to be playing guard or passing on the outside, berimboloing. You're going to be teleporting in a sense from one position to the next. If you're tall, you can play spider. And every body type has this beautiful innate quality of how they approach guard or jiu-jitsu as a whole. And I love it. And I love that there's identity for everyone. You don't have to be muscular. You don't have to be tall. You don't everyone has a style that they can play regardless of their type. But this need to want to constantly learn something new is going to kill your game, and it's going to, in essence, create a learning curve that doesn't have to be there. When you settle on a game, you're going to have to learn how that game works from person to person, body type to body type. And then you're going to almost have to start relearning it as you age, because your attributes are declining, but your understanding of the human body is accelerating. So what I can't quite do with athleticism, I have to do with fundamental approach. So then I start learning that guard pass a little bit differently. I start applying that guard a slightly different angle, a different approach, different timing. That's where the growth actually happens. It's not the novelty. There's a diminishing return on novelty. It's like building a house, and you start with the kitchen. Weird place to start, but whatever. You start with the kitchen, and you get kind of bored. You haven't finished the kitchen, so then you start working on the living room. You get bored of that, and then you start working on the game room, and then you start working on one of the bedrooms. Then you start working on the man cave, and then you start working on a bathroom. And when you look back, you have a bunch of dysfunctional things that you have created and then got bored of and started moving on to something else, never really flourishing or never letting it become anything of substance. It's not a completed room. It's not a completed kitchen or a completed bathroom or game room. They're all just kind of half-assed. They're not functionally sound. They're not beneficial to you in any way. And they're not even connected. So you don't actually have a house. You have segments of a house that aren't connected and that aren't finished in any way remotely possible. That's what we do every time we chase something that's novel. We have this obsession with wanting to chase what's new. And I get it to some degree. For me personally, I know I've been in for a while, so I have maybe a better understanding of how I want to approach jiu-jitsu and how I decide what's functionally sound and what isn't. What's going to functionally make my game and what isn't. But I don't look at things the same way that people coming up do, because I understand how much time it takes to develop something. I understand that the game that I developed took years, decade, 15 years total. And certain aspects of that game are still in development. They're not completely finished. To the outside viewer, they look great. They look finished. They look put together. But there's elements that I know that I need to do better with. There's elements that I need to spend more time on. There's elements that I need to fix. And I can't continue to choose novelty over what's functional. Now, I have a more complete house. I have a kitchen. I have a bathroom. I have a living room. I have like bedrooms. My house is pretty complete. At this stage, I'm now remodeling. I think that's the perfect way to put it. I'm remodeling different aspects of what I do and the way the house looks. I might be installing something new, but it's not going to revolutionize what I already do. It's something that's going to accompany the house. I'm going to put a little spa, a hot tub in the back, but the house is complete. It doesn't mean that it's complete in the sense of like, does it have everything that someone else's house has? No. I'm not great at leg locks. My house doesn't have those. Someone else's house has those. But someone else's house has leg locks in it, but they don't have functional guard passing, maybe. For example, I have functional guard passing. So my house is pretty complete. I'm proud of my house. It's not perfect. There's things that I can fix. There's things that I can remodel. There's things that I can spend some time on to develop a little bit better, looks a little fancier, maybe a little sleeker. But I'm proud of my house, as imperfect as it is. And then I start adding things and I start remodeling, but the function of the house is complete. That's where I'm at. If you don't have your foundation in place, if you don't know how to play guard, if you don't know how to functionally play, like I was discussing something with someone, and I'm not talking shit at all. He's newer to the game, not a white belt, but newer to the game. And something I had noticed about his game was that he didn't quite have an answer for the specific spot that we were in. Pretty common spot. So it's something that you should be working on. And I asked him, so when you get to this, what are you trying to do? Well, I'm trying to sweep and submit. So what guard are you playing? Well, I'm trying to, and I was like, okay, so I understand that part. I genuinely understand that. But what guard are you if you can identify the guard, what were you trying to play? He didn't really have one, and which showed in the way we were playing the position. So I gave him, so I want you to do this. And I explained why. I gave him a specific guard that he was kind of leaning into already. And I said, the reason I want you to do this guard is because it's functional from when they're standing and when they're kneeling, whether it's one knee, two knee, or standing completely. And it leads into these submissions, which I know you like and you're good at. You have range, you have longer legs. These are great for you. They're great additions, great choices. So because I want you to play this guard, it's going to lead to these things. I want you to play this game every time it's available from this position. He's like, okay. That's what I mean by we don't have to chase novelty. He has something in place that he's sort of leaning to. He hasn't named it yet. He doesn't have a position in mind. He's trying a bunch of different things. So I introduced something that solidified what the position was going to look like. Now I need him to play that game for at least a few weeks. I don't want him to get distracted. I don't want him to search anything else. I don't want him to try anything else. I don't want him to dive into anything else. I want him to focus specifically on what we're doing. I want him to play that. And it's rough. It's sometimes difficult. It's sometimes you want to go, you see this thing on the internet, and you see this thing on YouTube, and you see this, maybe something that you're taught in class, and you want to try those things. You only have so much time in a day. You don't want to introduce new recipes when you're trying to master the specific one. So sometimes you got to put that on hold. And you got to just tell yourself, for the next 4 weeks, I am playing this. And I have to understand this really well. And that's going to develop your game. It's going to develop depth. It's going to develop an understanding of what you're doing. It's fun. There's creativity in that without borrowing or getting too much into all novelty shit. For me as an instructor is one of the hardest things because I really try not to repeat lessons too closely together. Now, if I'm teaching at one gym and I'm teaching at another, I might have one lesson mount at gym A, and a few weeks later I do mount at gym B, but the students don't necessarily interact all that much. I'm not all that worried. Now, sometimes I have a workshop that I might do at one gym, and then I do that same or similar workshop, I should say, at another gym. I'm aware that the positioning and the topic matter is the same, but then I provide a couple of different techniques within it so that if someone went to one and they came to the other, they're not feeling like it's the same workshop. They might see a couple of techniques that are identical. They might see identical techniques that lead to different options. They might see if the opponent does something slightly different, then it leads to this other thing. So they're not identical. They're never identical for me because I understand that as a coach, novelty is king in some ways. And you don't want someone to travel to a workshop to get the exact same workshop. But I really do, as a coach, have to replay certain positions, certain topics, things defensively. I have to do that repetitively throughout the year. And they may not be identical, but the lessons are pretty same. Like how you get out of side control is going to be the same. Like there isn't, yes, there's options that I do that are different than some other people, but the overall structures, it is what it is. And so sometimes I don't teach the defensive stuff as often as I should because I don't want to make people feel like, oh, I've seen this already. I've been through this class already. We're doing this again, and kind of roll their eyes and all that shit. But if I'm teaching a technique, it means that I've been seeing something within the group that the group is not doing well, whether it's my group or one of the groups at the other gyms that I teach at. I'm seeing a pattern in something, and that's what's spurned my curiosity in teaching that. So if I'm teaching it, understand that there's, even if it's not novel and it's something that you feel like you've learned, I'm telling you there's stuff that there that you haven't picked up on. I was teaching side control escapes recently, and something that I picked up on, not just at the school that I did the workshop at my school and the other school, I noticed that people tend to want to extend their arms. And one of the things that I wanted from that workshop was there's absolutely no reason to extend your arms in most cases. Extension requires muscle, and if that person's heavier or stronger, you're not going to be able to move them. So it doesn't help you. So then I started showing, I want you to use the 2 to 3 inches between the point of your elbow and your forearm, or the 2 inches on your wrist to be able to frame better. And then I showed where to frame, how to frame. I showed when you're framing against the neck, and then you can extend the arm forward, not extension as in like the wrist comes forward, but you're using your shoulder to push through, which then pushes your elbow further away from your body. I showed that stuff, and there was moments where people were like, oh, okay, I hadn't thought of this. This is pretty cool. Very basic shit. There's stuff that we have to learn, and sometimes we neglect, and sometimes we look over because it's not sexy, it's not novel, it's not offensive. I don't want us to get caught up in that trap of like, I got to learn something new every time I come to class. Now, there's a difference. An instructor shouldn't be repeating themselves so close together. They should put some thought into what they're doing, where they can space things out and make people feel, oh, I haven't done this in a while, or it's been 6 months, 4 months, a year since I did any lasso guard. It's not a guard that gets played all that often these days. But you should be replaying things. You should be coming back to things. None of your students pick up every detail. None. Absolutely none. I've had students come up to me who will be like, oh, I've never learned this before. And I look at them and I'm like, I know you were here for that. I know 1,000% you were here for that. You come regularly. I taught this 6 months ago, but we could only retain so much. So even when you go through a pass of a technique for a week, they're only going to pick up so many details. And then when you pick up that same technique and you show it a week, again, maybe 6, 7 months later, then they pick up some of the other details. Because we're only going to pick up so much based on our ability to retain material and input. The lower you are in the belts, the more you're probably going to miss, because a lot of it isn't ingrained. If you're a brown, black belt, you've been around for a while, you're going to know a lot of the details, and then you'll pick up on 1 or 2 subtle things where you're like, I never considered that. And then that's a shift for your own training. So novelty can be helpful from time to time. It keeps students engaged, but it should not be the driving force. It really should not. We should have specific things that we're working on regularly, and we should just understand we're working towards mastery and understanding at depth, not shallow understanding of that novelty gives you sometimes. I'm hoping this makes some sense. If you have any questions, please hit me up dfm.2099 on Instagram and Threads. I also have a new Patreon page. A lot of techniques are on there. We'll also have a coaching element to that. I really want to start working with people and coach, whether that's in person or remote, which is what the Patreon is going to be more geared around. I want to help people get better, and I want to be able to answer questions and kind of focus on people that are serious about really getting better in a shorter amount of time. If that's something that interests you, please sign up. The link is going to be in the show notes. If you like the podcast, please like, share, subscribe, rate. It goes a long way, helps me out quite a bit. Until next time, thank you so much.